about how you found your identity as an adult, and that was because when you became a father,
Yeah.
it was just like your mother and father kind of fostered that Hebrew culture. So, how did that affect your art, or why did you pursue art in the first place? I guess I'll ask.
No, I started. I didn't. I'm not the child that was. I hear you ask me about my childhood. I
Yes.
was grown up in a religious family.
Yes.
Okay, and religious family, the Jewish religious family, is not. We are more into learning and studying. All the art side, all the visual side is almost forbidden. Yeah, it's to be an idol. You call it an idolizing the world because our God has no shape and no. So you're not allowed to draw and to sculpture. So I'm not coming from a family that, from this point of view, the culture point of view, I went to museums, or even I wasn't talented that everybody says, wow, he's so talented, he draws so much, he's going to be a big artist. I I discovered my creativity really in a late stage in my life. I was in my 30s, okay? And I discovered it when I arrived to a point where all my other tools, my intellectual tools, my emotional tools were not functioning anymore. I had my own identity crisis. And I needed something new to discover. But I didn't have the tools, so I had to create my tools to deal with my identity. And there, slowly, slowly, through creativity, I began to build my tools, how to discover who I am. And when you discover who you am, you have to remember that after you discover, you are supposed also to live who you are. So you have to be very careful in the way you discover, because each one of us contains many, many parts, nice parts, ugly parts. It's part of who we are. And I really got to learn after many years of intensive work that yes, who we are is a result of many circumstances that we were born to, and we are obliged to be able to contain them, to feel them, to touch them. But and this is who we are under those circumstances. But each one has a different self that couldn't develop under those circumstances, even if those circumstances are wonderful circumstances. If you have wonderful parents, because parenthood is allowing things to happen, but also limiting situations. So be able to be who you are under those circumstances, and yet to allow to new things to grow. It's a huge challenge, and I think creativity is a huge tool for this.
So, how do you see art as a medium, as a form of enacting social change?
So I have my doubts. I have my doubts. If it was so simple, so they're using art as for social doing for many years. So if it was so successful, there was supposed to be no more social problems, and we know social injustice is going on and getting bigger and bigger. As a result, it's an illness of our society, right? It's a direct, otherwise it wouldn't happen. And I know in those extreme situations of it's not easy to find the resources, not only the financial resources but the emotional resources also for people involved in those situations to use the energy to create, because when you're dealing with food you need to find, and shelter you need to have, and raising your children. So why should I go and do some painting or write a song, or on all the organizations that deal with social doing, say, creativity is beautiful, but we need medicine and we need food, and here Abdallah, when I met Abdallah, it was a month after he arrived here. He's from Syria. I'm an Israeli, which is also, even that, it was, our countries are enemies. For me, it was the first Syrian human being I ever met. And So it's not an obvious, and I have my doubts. But I can tell you, let's say with the project here together with Abdallah, the Syrian refugee, inviting him here twice, 3 times a week to create together for the last 3.5 months. I can tell you that I could see different kind of impact on him and on his family as a result of him being here. Like he was living in a refugee camp for a few years before he arrived. So his identity as the man in the family, his ability as a man to bring food or was very limited. And being here and has suddenly having friendships, new people he meets. He knew nobody. He was relocated in a place that only Syrian family, no other people speaking Arabic around him. So coming here to the studio, to the Lishtag Foundation, meeting Iman and Sama and Adib and Olga brings, friendship, so he could bring his children and the children could see the father doing things and people relating to him, not as a refugee, but as a human being. I really believe that in the long run, even if not directly his art, but this period he had to regain vitality and regain some support to his identity as a human being. This is an energy he could use to face the challenges that he's facing, which are huge in his new life here in America.
And could you relate to his struggle in any way?
For sure, for sure. First, I'm a person that on my personal life, I knew many immigration. I was living in Europe. I was living in the States. I was living in India. I know what is to be a newcomer. Thank God it was not under the severe situation of Abdallah. I'm not comparing, but even in my circumstances as an artist traveling and coming to new countries and living in new countries and having even English as a language that I could communicate wherever I arrived is very difficult. I know I arrived to New York in 2001, it was just before the 9/11. I was living there for 5 years as an artist. It was a huge challenge. Different culture, different codes, different. So I could relate very much, as I said, also as a son to people who, I was born to people who immigrant 4 years to a new country. So of course, I could, and I'm not naive to think that a 5 or 3.5 month creative workshop is making Abdallah's life easier or the challenges are less. It's a small drop, but it's a drop with a lot of oxygen inside, I would like to believe, a drop of water. So maybe it's a bit different drop of water.